Hi, I'm here with Richard Neyersoo, who's from the Gwich'in Nation in Northwest Territories, and he's a member of the Working Group on Natural Resource Development. Richard, today your working group released a report called Engaging First Nations in Canada's Resource Future. Can you please tell me what the report's about and also what benefits that this report, if the recommendations have adopted, will have for the future of our First Nations?
Well, it's the whole reason why we were appointed the working committee is to develop what you might say is a framework that would guide the discussions on First Nation participation in resource development in this country. Our own view was that we needed to identify processes that we would implement, recognizing the treaties and recognizing that there are existing agreements in this country that guide relationships. And part of that was the recognition that our First Nation governments were orders of government and needed the appropriate consideration and due respect that they deserve. And in that process, we identified 4 key areas. One was the governance issue, recognizing again the power and the authority and the involvement of First Nation governments and citizens in this country in deciding how resource development could take place and the conditions by which those approvals were provided, including dealing with issues like revenue sharing. The next aspect was the environment. Environment is a key issue. No matter which First Nation you talk to, the environment and the management, the protection of environment and the resources on the land, off the land that they traditionally harvested was really key. So they needed to be involved in environmental management, land use planning, project planning with industry and with government. And the other issue was dealing with prosperity. How do we take our people out of a condition where they were in poverty to being able to benefit and prosper from the resources from their traditional lands? We needed to have that conversation. It's not simply about jobs, it's about business, it's about how they would be able to, as communities, improve the quality of life and the conditions of their community. Fourthly was about the fiscal, the financing of participation of First Nations in significant projects, because you're not talking about projects that are worth $1 billion. I mean, we're talking about some of these projects that are worth billions and billions of dollars. And the issue is, how do we create the financial environment that First Nations can participate in ownership of these projects or investing in projects was a key conversation. All across this country we have First Nations that have, in some instances, you have land claim agreements that are worth millions and millions of dollars. One of the issues you have, regions like the James Bay and the James Bay Cree, very successful financially and in business, and they probably have some resources to create what would be an appropriate investment, First Nation investment fund in Canada.
Right.
And so the question is, can First Nations put together their own financial plan that would allow them to take advantage of investment opportunities right across this country, so that we're not focused primarily in our area of concern and our own traditional area, but looking at what the economic opportunities provided to us. I think about it in the context of being in Ontario. I think about it in the context of the Ontario Teachers Pension Plan.
Okay, right.
Okay, if you can see that.
Yeah, I see where you're going.
If you could see that,
Yeah.
the pension plan as having so much influence on economic development, not only in Ontario, but all around the world.
Right.
And achieving the benefits for those people that have, in fact, put put into that pension plan and be owners of business, investing in projects.
Right. So the single teacher on his own with that pension is fairly weak, but you put all the pensions together of all the teachers across the province, there's an incredible strength.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
So you look at it in that context. And so the other thing is small First Nations don't have that fiscal capacity. You know, you're not talking about, in some cases, large communities with a lot of money, and they in fact are having a very difficult time just with the money they're receiving from government. So it's hard for First Nations to talk about how they can participate in any economic activity because they're dealing with the stresses of the social conditions of their community. And our leadership in those communities spend all their time in trying to solve daily problems as opposed to creating a vision and seeing what the future holds for their people so that they can improve the quality of life and the conditions of that community. So we're spending a whole bunch of our leaders' time on being basically social agents. You know, in our communities. And that's not the role of a leader. That's the role of our leader is to lead us. In any communities, whether there are 50 members or 5,000 or 25,000, they have to have a vision for improving and to have the tools to lead them out of poverty. And because that should be our objective. And that's, in my view, we're limiting the ability of First Nations, whether or not they're traditional, they're people who live on the land, that harvest off the land. They can also see that their children and they themselves can benefit from those activities that are happening from resource extraction activities on their land. Always with a view that protecting the environment is fundamental in the conversation.
So what's the next steps now? You've released the document here in Toronto. I understand copies were given to the Aboriginal minister, I believe the federal minister responsible, and also the provincial, I would imagine, as well. So what's the next step?
Well, the next steps are we're getting to share all the report with all the First Nation chiefs and leaders. Secondly, we're trying to get it out to the provinces and the territories leadership and to industry and if it's possible, citizens of this country. We have a website that can be accessed, and
the website is www. Do you know what it is?
No, I'd have to get that.
No problem. Okay.
But we have a website, and I'll give you the information for that.
Thank you.
And we can release it. It's going to be PDF. And by the way, it's not only in English, but it's in French.
Okay.
So the citizens who speak French in this country will have access to it. It's in both official language.
That's terrific. Is there anything else you want to say in conclusion?
Well, one other aspect that we'd like to talk about is, even though we haven't said it publicly, if First Nations want us to come and explain what went on, or the leadership want to hear what we had to say, we're certainly open to an invitation to visit communities and to explain the report in detail. And we're certainly also going to be meeting with the national leadership at an appropriate time at the invitation of our national chief, and working with them and looking at how we might be able to develop an implementation strategy that would do a better job in sharing the information and bringing about positive outcomes and results from the report.
Well, Richard Neyersoo, thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. It sounds like a very fascinating project and an important one, and please keep us informed. We'd like to sort of follow up and keep our viewers at mininglifeonline.net informed as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. Have a great day.
Yeah, have a great day.
Thank